yes. Everybody, okay, call it. Yep. I know. Hey, I gotta talk to you about something. About something right now. Look at this. Tokens. So you're going to get your NFTs, right? You got to get your NFTs. Get your NFTs. Okay, now listen. So you got your token. You got your phone device here. Where's your NFTs? What is this? I gotta talk to you about this. It's called the Kin Token. You need to get the Kin Token, folks. Kin Token. NFTs, right? 3 hours each. And folks, Kin Tokes. Kin Token. Well, howdy, folks. Me and my little buddy here don't want y'all to get caught up in the rat race. So you're gonna get your Kin Tokens early. You're gonna wait for that airdrop until the membership sells out. Now you could take that to the bank. You could take that to the decentralized blockchain technologies, buddy.
Alrighty there, okay.
It's the freaking Kin Token, folks. Get the Kin Token. It's the Kin Token, folks. Kin Token. Get the Kin Token, folks! You need to get the Kin Token! Get the Kin Token before it's too late! It's like he's, like, I get it, like Kin's Token. He's like, because he's like token. Kin's Token.
And we're live, bros.
We're live.
Oh.
Do you hear that?
Hey guys.
All right, here we go. How's the audio chat? Let me know how it sounds. I kind of rearranged the room, and things may not sound the same. Argo Blue, thanks for tuning in, bro. Randy, how goes it? Love you, man. And yeah, me and Nathan were just talking about coming up to New York to see you, so maybe we'll stop by. There's a chance.
This new style of wave I've perfected. I'm waiting at the chat.
That's so much effort. I feel bad for how much you.
It loosened my
hi to
fingers.
me. You know what I mean, though? It's like, wow, you put a lot of effort into saying hello, and all I'm going to do is this.
Eric, it's really sweet, but it's kind of pathetic.
Well, you're not getting reciprocation is what I'm trying to say. And I hope that you aren't doing this much effort, hoping to get that much effort in response back, because
I do actually expect you.
Disappointed.
That's actually a really good point. And it's something I know we're joking, but like that's some real shit that you just said there. And I do plan on you reciprocating me when I come see you soon. So I hope that you take that. And that sounded dirty, but it's not. You people, dirty minds.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. Please like and share. If you are watching live right now, it would be awesome if you could just tweet out or post on Facebook if it's working today.
Do you love us or not?
Yeah, share it out. If you invested in Ken Token or bought any of my NFTs, it is in your best interest to make me more famous. So share my shit. Our guest today is Rob McNealy. How goes it, bro?
Hey, good to see you again. It's been too long, and you changed your number, so I can't text you anymore.
You know what? I'm gonna DM you my number right. Actually, because keyboard's on camera, I'll DM you my number later.
Going down in the DM.
I was at a conference on Friday, and people were like, "See, I just was texting Ken." I'm like, "I'd love to text Ken. I used to text with Ken, but that's not possible anymore." So I was actually disappointed. I was like, I discovered that I was like literally like in steerage. Like I'm a second class citizen. Like,
wait, I do have a visual clue as to why that may be the case, though, right? 1, 2, 3 smartphones on screen, right? So new phone who dis is like a real life problem I have to like really manage. And there's a few people I need to make sure have my number. You are on the top of that list, so I'll make sure you get it.
Well, I won't spam you, bro.
No, for sure.
You might sell his number to like a company so that they could, advertise to him though. That's one thing I worry about. Are you going to sell his number to like Home Depot or something so he gets like emails all the time?
I was thinking hair club for men.
Oh.
Wow, that hit twice actually.
Yeah.
First he's selling my info. 1, that's just 1. But 2, he sold it to somebody who lets me know like I need to get my hair checked out. Like something's up. Like that's like buying somebody deodorant for Christmas. Like, oh, not only did you get me a cheap, shitty present, you got me a cheap, shitty present that actually says something fucked up.
Yeah. Here's my armpit, by the way, people.
Oh,
that's
great.
almost
Now we're banned.
that's almost like a stepmom level, like an evil stepmom level gift, right? That
Yeah.
whole like passive aggressive Karen thing, like, oh, I gave you a gift, but it's this gift. It's not even good enough to re-gift kind of gift.
Yeah, it should. They say don't look a gift horse in the mouth, because when you would gift somebody a horse, people know that the gums on a horse recedes as they age. So it's like
rings on their teeth, like trees or something. Like
there's another thing. Exactly. So if somebody gifts you a horse and you look in its mouth, like, this is cool, I love the gift, but is this like an old horse? Is this a horse that's not going to really help me out
thanks
much?
for the car. How many miles are on this Tesla?
Exactly. And I think that's like a lot of our problem in society is we're too busy.
Fuck, dude,
like,
I see that with
examining.
NFTs all day. Talk about examining that like level of things when you're like, just hey, what's your address? I want to send you an NFT. Oh, which one? How much is it worth? What's it from? Where is it from? Like, I just thought of you and I wanted to send you an NFT. I asked for your address. It's like when you're at the store, in the early 2000s, you'd call or text one of your friends and be like, yo, like, what's your address? Because we didn't have Amazon wish lists. But then we were at the store, we'd be at the mall and be like, yo, my boy would love this shirt. Yo, bro, what's your address? Like, just like, oh, what kind of shirt? Are you at the Gucci store? Like, that's not how this works.
Dude, that's like people that have like had their third marriage and they want like another wedding registry thing, and it's all like crazy shit. Like, I need a new set of Craftsman tools for my garage.
They just want towels. There's like, I'm running out of towels here.
Well, I didn't go to a nice school and have rich friends to not get good stuff in life from the social reward things that we get, like baby showers and wedding showers, and I don't know, I took a showers.
Showers are good. You ever gotten a gift in the shower?
I
mean, carefully.
Giggity.
You got it. Hey.
So I wanted to jump into these crappy art NFTs you got, bro, because I was looking at the website. Let me bring this up for the chat. Oh, I have so many monitors. This is actually harder now. Okay, there we go.
Bring up the chat.
Yeah, but then I got to try to get you and him on screen ready for like this. And just because of the way I have all my monitors set up, yeah, that took twice as long as normal. Anyway, the Undead Presidents, fucking love this. This is hilarious, bro. Genius. Please tell me that this came to you in a psychedelic coma.
I would say it was a team effort.
Dude, this is genius. I can't believe nobody's beating you to this. Like, this is probably one of the most clever generative like schemes. This is so clever, dude.
So I'll tell you what we're doing with Crappy Art. So I'm doing the Tusk thing, right? And what we are doing with Tusk is we just finished our first hard fork. The wallet just got rebuilt. We'll be back online like tomorrow or Wednesday. But what we're doing with Tusk is going to allow for NFT creation, asset creation, if someone wants to build on it, like an NFT marketplace. And there's probably going to be an NFT marketplace built on Tusk, one way or the other, and there's a couple ways it's going to happen. But what I wanted to do is, before I do anything, I learn best by doing. Like, I jump in, feet first, head first, and just go crazy. And so I said, look, all these generative NFT drops are the shizzle. I want to understand the process. And by the way, it's a big pain in the ass.
It really is, isn't it?
It's a pain in the ass. So I pulled together our lead developer from Tusk, a couple other friends and an artist from Brazil, and we got together and say, you know what, I want to learn this process because I think I'm going to be I'm going to be involved with an NFT marketplace built on Tusk. And I want to understand from the creator's perspective how we can make that a really good NFT marketplace. And so that's why we decided to do this. And then through our brainstorming sessions, I said, look, most of these are just big, money grabs. And don't get me wrong, I want to make money too. But what do you do with the money? And so
give it away.
I want to give it away. So
I knew the answer.
So what we decided to do under the Crappy Art banner is we want to do multiple series of NFT drops. And then for every drop, we'll probably feature a different artist, and then we'll have a charity partner built into that. And so, like some of these NFTs drops, they don't give a shit about anybody. They're not giving any of it away. Some are saying we'll give some away if we sell X number of NFTs. And what we said is like, screw that. We're going to give away every time. If we only sell 50 NFTs, I want the charity to get 50 NFTs worth of a cut. So what we're doing is we partnered on this first initial inaugural drop from Crappy Art, the Undead President series. We're giving 10% of every single NFT to Watsy. And they are an innovative tech company that helps crowdfund people getting surgery around the world.
Oh,
and
that's
so,
awesome.
so here, I'll give you an interesting story about this. So what we're doing is we're not just saying, oh, if we hit a contingency milestone, they'll get a payout. We're like, no, we're hard coding their ETH, their public ETH addressed wallet right into our smart contract. So, and then what we're doing is give them 10%, and then they're going to get a piece of a royalty for every future sale. And then we're giving them a couple NFTs for their old holdback too. So we're going to promote them. We're going to tell people about them. We did a lot of research. And by the way, this was a big pain in the ass too, right? We went and reached out, and they were not the first choice that we were going to work with. And I didn't know about them, but we went out to a lot of big name charities and even some smaller name charities, and they wouldn't even freaking call us back.
Wow.
Is it
crypto related reasons?
Dude, I reached out I'll tell you this. So my first one that I was interested in that I wanted to work with was the Electronic Frontier Foundation because of digital privacy. Dude, I sent those guys 3 emails and left 2 voicemails. Oh no, I'm sorry. I left like 3 voicemails and some multiple emails to all their donation people. And they have like a zillion people do it. I never got one response from them. And that was last week. Like, it wasn't like I'm waiting, 5 minutes and then all of a sudden.
You would think charities would be more proactive on accepting the hands that are offered to them.
I'm finding that's the opposite. So I reached out I'm not going to shame this other charity. They're a smaller outfit. And I had known that they had received some crypto donations, and I talked to them, and they're like, well, we got to talk to our board and we'll get you a call back. And I said, look, we're kind of, I know this is an expedited thing, but we're a real thing. Where, you can look me up. It's not like I'm doxxed. It's not like you can't figure out who I am. And they never even responded either. And it's interesting. Like, they're almost like they're all their own bureaucracies, and they're like acting like giant corporations or something. And so what I ended up doing is I did a search so I figured, all right, we got to find a partner because I want to help somebody, right? So I did a search for charities that took crypto. I figured if they're already taking crypto, they're probably going to be open to it. And then I did some research and I found Watsy, and then I looked up their charity navigator ratings. They got like 100% on that, which means they're very transparent and they're very efficient with the money. And I reached out to them and literally boom, 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 totally responsive, totally on board. My wife's a medical doctor. And so I said, look at this charity. Tell me what you think, right? Because my wife works in public health too. So it's like, she's like, looks legit to me. So I reached out to them, and they been totally helpful and totally on board with what we're doing. And they were totally appreciative. And to me, it's interesting. It's like, I want to work with people that want to work with us. Like,
right.
Let's do
cool. People always ask, when I was growing up, like, what's your type? You an ass man, you a tits man, like, what do you like? And I was always like, I'm really attracted to girls that are attracted to me. Yeah. I feel like that. I like people that like me. Something about that. That's like a really good trait to have. If you like me, odds are I like you. So if your business, is showing some kind of admiration towards, individual as well, I can see the same thing, man. Like, I totally dig that.
So, so like, I'm just excited. And it's funny because like, I'm almost more excited about working with Watsy and doing some cool stuff than I am actually the drop, which I know is probably bad. I mean, even if you go to like our drop page at Crappy Art, the Undead Presidents thing, we put them as like just below the top and all their information and who they are and what they're doing. We put a video in there because we want people to know, look, this is a big part of what we're doing and what we want to do. And I look at it like this: if we're successful, like if we did a full sellout, there's a lot of money to be made doing this. And I'm like, why the freak can't we just go and share that with people? But with the royalty, not only is it this is a one-off thing, but they get kind of an ongoing benefit, right? And I mean, it got me thinking a lot about NFTs and the future of where this could be for sustainable funding of cool things. And so my mind's running really, really fast, but that's where it's like, this is what I wanted, right? Because I wanted to understand this process. So when we build an NFT marketplace, it has some of the functionality that I'm learning and that I think is important built right into that kind of interface.
Dude, I love that, dude. I'm wondering, like, how is your on-ramping process for the charities, you know, like, that aren't familiar with NFTs or crypto in general? Is there any kind of, like, a elevator pitch you try to, like, you know, to comfort them into it? Or I'm just curious, like, how's that conversations been?
So literally, I reached out for WotC. I reached out to one of their founders on Twitter and DM'd them. That's how I reached out.
But were they familiar with crypto stuff? Because I mean,
yeah, they already accept crypto. So that's how I found them. I found that they did accept crypto, and then I went and did a little diligence, looked at their Charity Navigator ratings, and then I reached out to the guy on Twitter, because I'm like, okay, let's go to the top first and then work your way backwards. But I think what I'm finding, just because we spent a lot, I mean, honestly, we've already launched by now with the marketing, but we were trying to find the right partner to give money to. That's how I look at it, or raise money for.
Well, Uplift, Nathan works with Uplift, and they raise a lot of money for charities as well, using not only entertainment type NFTs like music or things like that, but also like utility NFTs like in-game assets.
Yeah, I'd love to know more about that too.
Nathan.
And
yeah, definitely. So, we've got all kind of crazy stuff. Like we're in some ways like an art company combined with a music company, like a metaverse and video game. So it's like kind of hard to extract all the small channels there, but on a really high level, like it gives people the ability through our other charitable site, uplift.art, a transparent way to provide money to charities, especially like a lot of the things in Haiti that have gone on. That's kind of where we focused a lot of our efforts. But this kind of actually, I don't want to like detract from explaining because I love where I'm at, but this brings up a question that I had for you. And do you think that transparency aspect of this, the blockchain part of it, is unfortunately the reason that people don't want to accept crypto? Because then they would have to be accountable.
Well, all right. So let's start off with NFTs. Let's start off with the name of our group, Crappy Art, and then like coming out of
dude, I'm like literally drinking water.
Right. So let's start. If you're not, here's the thing: if you don't understand anything of NFT culture or crypto culture, yeah, you know, if you think about it, I looked at this one charity and like I looked at the board members that were supposed to, like, they were going to quote unquote talk to, and then they never got back to me, and I even followed up and they never got back to me, and they're like literally people that work at banks. And I'm just like, they're not going to. And I said this to my wife. I go, this group is not going to go for this. So I think it's ultimately like if they don't understand it, and so they're going to stay away from it. And I think people that are outside. That's why I said I've had a lot better luck. Once I started looking at charities that already accepted crypto, they understood that, and so that was about. So to me, probably in the future, when we decide to partner with the next drop and the next drop and whatever we end up doing, that'll probably be the process. Like I'm going to start with charities that probably already accept crypto, understand crypto, and then we vet them, they'll vet us, and that's fine too. And then we'll probably have better luck working with them.
Yeah, I think that's the way that this is going to be for a lot of people. I mean, there's a reason that the people want the technology to work and the powers that be don't.
Well, that's why charity.
Yeah, it's about aligning yourself correctly.
And that's why charity companies are profitable, because people want they want to help, right? And I think and like we mentioned, maybe the transparency could be an issue now, but I feel like, you know, issues today are just because of the way the systems are built, like they profit from the issues. It's not really a bug, it's a feature, especially with like the Red Cross not knowing exactly how much they make or what's going on. Like that's exactly how they want things to be, but it's only like that because people want to fund things that they think are helping people. Once the people know that they should be looking for transparency for that decentralized accountability where you can go and look at the ledger and say, wait, this is how much they had come in. This is what they're moving it to. Where they, oh, this is a private wallet. That's an exchange account. Like, they can be held. People will hold them accountable using transparency as a way to say, well, if this charity isn't doing something like that, then I won't be putting my money in that bucket anymore. And this is where I see the Red Cross getting kind of drowned out by like provable charity that is transparent.
Well, it was interesting, like because I've done some rough back of the napkin numbers on like how much if we sell out, right? I don't know where this is going to go. I'm hoping we sell out because I think we can do cooler stuff, and this could be an interesting way to fund other charities and other projects and cool stuff in the future. So I'm excited to do that. But I was running some numbers based on the 10% split, and I'm like, and I looked at a couple charities, and I'm like, this is like half your fucking annual budget, and you really have to do nothing except give us an ETH wallet address. And the fact that they're like hedging and blowing us off and not really taking it seriously, I'm like, you're gonna lose. And this is just like everything else, right? I think that the people right now that either don't get crypto, don't get NFTs, are not thinking about it, or are thinking incorrectly, right? They're thinking it's all a scam. Those groups are going to miss out in the future, right? Right now, it's like if you're not at the front line going, holy shit, we can make money with this permanently, and this is a new way to see where giving can be, because there's a lot of wealth in this space, and people want to do good things with it. There's more millionaires I don't know, but there's more millionaires been created in the last 5 years from crypto than probably any other industry, I would guess. And to ignore that huge market of new money and people that do believe in giving back, to just ignore that, I think is short-sighted on the part of charities. And so I think the future, I think the future of charitable giving is going to be, the groups that are efficient, that are innovative and looking forward. Those are the ones that are going to be the charities that start dominating in the future. I just think people are going to have that expectation, like you were saying.
Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier, with sort of like the nature of the crappy art, how cyclical it kind of is, right? Where if these charities figure out the way to utilize NFTs and cryptocurrencies by making their own social tokens, and find a model to provide value to those who provide value to them, creates that cyclical nature where like you make people money that help you make money. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, and in an analogy, I guess, to kind of like simplify it, would be like if the Red Cross had like Hurricane Katrina NFTs at a limited batch, and then they gamified them with things like the Live 8 events, right? Your Hurricane Katrina NFT could be a ticket to the Live 8 concert, because the Red Cross partnered with Live 8 to create utility for that NFT. Now there's secondary market utility for it. I can actually make money off the money I gave to help hurricane victims. That is a profitable, self-sustaining, cyclical business model for charity, only existing because of NFTs and crypto.
Well,
yeah, and
I
totally see that too. No, like one thing I wanted to see is I'd like to see those people work with, the government, unfortunately, to create some sort of tax token where rich people could buy these NFTs essentially. And even if they don't get it, they would receive some sort of subsidization on their taxes, where even if they don't want to do good things, they would sort of be forced to do good things to help themselves gain, and kind of gamifying the human heart in a way. I know it's not necessarily the ideal situation, but I think we're combating so much evil on a daily basis and so much dissidence. It's kind of hard to approach it in other ways.
Well, I think, one of the things is, and I think there's a lot of people that don't understand the nature of government, is that government is not actually here to solve problems, right? Like most of the problems in society are easily solved and could be solved by cooperative government. But taxation is not about solving problems or even just quote unquote funding, government, unfortunately. And that's why I think everybody gets disappointed when government doesn't do what they say they're going to do, right? The whole point, and a lot of people comes down to where politicians get power. Politicians get power by spending money, because they spend that money in ways that gives kickbacks to the people that fund them. So it's just like this circular corruption. And so the more money government can tax, the more money government politicians can borrow, the more money they can spend, the more power they have. and how they spend that money to get that power is not efficient at solving problems. That's not where it's profitable. It's profitable by enriching cronies. Now I'm getting political and I don't mean to, but that is part of what we're doing with the undead presidents, is to mock this and mock all of them, because they're all corrupt and they're all scummy. But I think ultimately a lot of people get disappointed when government doesn't solve problems or just keeps having the same problems just never end. And the fact is, most human problems are very easily solved. It's not hard to keep bridges, from falling down and roads from crumbling, and keep us relatively safe and do relatively baseline public health. That stuff is not actually complicated. It's not. Politics are not about creating solutions. Okay, it's about grifting and it's about politicians getting power, and that's why these things don't get solved. Smart people can solve most of these, and they're like, oh, I just solve it this way, this way, this way. I'm like, yeah, that's not hard to do. It's the fact that that's not the point of what government does or taxation. So I agree with you, Nathan. Like, we could totally do lots of things with crypto in a sustainable way that could solve real problems, but there's no interest. That doesn't benefit the politicians who make those decisions. And because it doesn't give them power. In fact, it takes away power from them. And that's why they're not going to embrace it, probably.
Do you think it's a symptom more of our human nature or just the structure of the system?
I think it's systemic and cultural. It's systemic and cultural. I think it's both. I think it's cultural because they're so used to it, as starting from city council on up, so probably even HOA on up. They're so used to that it's just culturally, it's normal. It's been normalized in government culture. So I think that is systemic, but it's cultural as well. Like, if you go to like a local city council, they're like, yeah, we just borrowed this bond for 30 years to build this crazy Taj Mahal, city hall building that we have no reason for. It doesn't benefit the taxpayers at all. But the contractors that are building it are donors to my political campaigns and my buddies, and they're going to make a bunch of money off it. In turn, they're going to fund me again, and they're going to give me kickbacks. That's kind of how it works. And that starts at city council level. In fact, I think you lose more of your rights at the local level than you do at the national or state level. But most people don't realize it, because if you think about it, that's where you interface with government, right? If you think about where most people actually interface with government, it's at the local level. It's like the zoning, it's like business licensing, it's like the cops writing tickets to you. That's all local. Right? It's like, that's where they screw with you the most. Public health is always a local thing too. And so, yeah, it's cultural and systemic, but I'm not here to rant about government, but.
No, that's a good point. I mean, essentially big government only hassles you once a year, and that's for your taxes for the most part.
And the fact is, rich people and poor people don't only pay taxes. It's the middle class that pays all the taxes, and right? Most poor people don't pay taxes. That's just a fact. They get so many different, they pay sales tax, but most of the time they get so many income credits and stuff. Most impoverished people don't pay a lot in taxes, and most rich people don't either, because most of their income is coming in from cap gains, which is then sheltered by different corporate things. And by the way, I'm going to do everything I can to pay as little tax that I legitimately owe. I'm going to reduce my tax liability. That's just smart, because the government also takes more than it needs to operate, and it's wasteful with it.
Yeah, have you seen those leaks? I haven't really looked into them myself, but I feel like that might be up your alley since you mentioned this. Recently, there were leaked documents from financial industry showing like Putin and Elton John, like, and all these celebrities and politicians laundering money and how they do it, and it's like very well documented. It's like 11 million files that have been leaked.
Right.
And reporters have been going through it pretty much the past like 24 hours that I've seen, and just been seeing like the names that are on the list, and some of like
on that list.
Putin, Elton John, is like the two names, like them two in the same, like, just what the fuck? But it's money laundering, that's that the rich people put them in that category, right? That's what they do. The tax evasion tricks and tips of the rich and famous.
It's a mixed bag too, right? Like, because if you look at some places, like, look, I have no problem paying for government services that I avail myself of, right? I have no problem paying taxes to cover roads and that kind of shit, because I use that stuff. And I have no problem paying whatever my fair share legitimately is. But I think on the other hand, government's pretty crazy about how they do taxation, and they're very wasteful of it.
You don't want to pay taxes for things you don't use?
Do I want to pay tax for? Not generally.
Why not?
That's a good question. I guess the question is like, okay, that could get into all sorts of foreign policy, personal decisions and preferences. But for instance, there's some things like how we do some foreign policy things that I don't want my money and name attached to. I don't want these things done in my name. So I'd prefer not to support that. If we're as a nation, I think we've done some bad things to people across the world. And ultimately, I don't think I'd like to support that if I didn't have to.
Okay. All right.
Good answer. Solid answer.
Yeah,
do you think
I'm really trying not to be political here. With
no,
this,
I know. We're in the muck, so we're like,
right.
You know.
Well, I can kind of
segue.
Well, I got a segue from the chat because
Okay.
ACU5 did want to know like what the process was for the undead presidents, since I feel like that is sort of like an NFT version of this conversation we just had, right? So he wanted to know like how long did it take from like the thought process to the launching process, and what are some of like the things that you may have learned about generative NFTs along the process?
Okay, so I'll tell you. All right, so we literally are probably soft launching today. We're literally just finalizing some of the giveaway rules in the Discord and the bots and all that kind of stuff. So today's like the first day we're talking. I'm actually glad we were supposed to do this, interview a couple days ago. We weren't actually as ready, but now we are. So I dive in quick and I pull things together quick. We made a decision to do this 2 weeks ago.
Oh shit!
And we're about ready to launch. The art's mostly done already. I mean, we got samples and we've been reviewing and going back and forth.
Damn, it took what was that? Jake Paul or Logan Paul like 6 months to do their Crypto Zoo clip art project.
Yeah,
man.
he had to personally clip each art. No, I'm just kidding. That was not the project either. That's the craziest thing.
I just saw the art for the undead presidents, and it's absolutely
so much better.
fucking great.
It's insane, dude.
They're really cool. We're literally looking at art on a daily basis right now and finalizing and going back and forth. So I just reached out. So our lead dev on Tusk, I roped him into this. So this is what I do when I work with developers, because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a developer, but I try to be helpful. So I think in the last month and a half, I've spent like 80 hours just on Clubhouse in NFT rooms and spending a ton of time reading about the process. And I'm talking about nitty gritty details, like, which pipe, even from like, the different scripts that people are using, the file formats that are recommended for NFTs. I've looked at probably 50 different NFT projects to see what they're doing and how they're launching, what I like and what I don't like about that. And so before we even decided to do this, I had done a tremendous amount of legwork. And literally what I did when I roped I roped our lead dev into this, and I said, I literally gave him emails with outlines of this is how many people are doing it. They're using this type of script. Here's an example in the GitHub. This is a contract. This is typically parameters. Here's a couple examples of the contract. And I literally went down the list and I found some overview articles written by, on how to do generative NFTs. And I'm like, I literally had an outline document that I spent about 6 hours writing with like references to make it very bullet point for our developer so he could hit the ground running.
Tell me you're going to publicize this.
What's that?
Tell me you're going to publicize this.
Maybe. I'm thinking about actually. So why
you could NFT it. You could.
Yeah, your process
you
here
could
might
put
be as valuable
all
as the
this
art.
information behind an NFT and make it unlockable content, so somebody has to buy the NFT to get all this information.
So what I'm thinking is I want to build this in. So one of the things that I'm interested in is, again, my a lot of this is for my own education. And so we want to build this generative NFT process into an interface so that non-artists or artists that are non-developers can do generative art without basically I want to like kind of extrapolate and distill all that stuff I just kind of listed off and build that into an interface that a non-tech person could also build.
Would my nephew be able to use his crappy art on crappy.art to put his crappy art on the blockchain?
So so I will say Crappy Art's an umbrella project where we're going to do these releases and kind of, work with different artists and work with different charities. That's kind of what the Crappy Art thing. I mean, there's no Crappy Art company. This is just a couple of us.
Okay, so this isn't where you'd be putting that like streamline.
No. So so I can tell you that, so Tusk, our blockchain, my main project, we just upgraded so you can create assets and NFTs on Tusk. We're not just a money payment system project anymore. We are morphing and pivoting. And so we just spent 4 months building that first hard fork. We just went through the hard fork, and then we just are finishing rebuilding the new web wallet, which will be literally out probably in the next couple of days, because we're literally, and we've been debugging that. And so that's what we spent the last 4 months on. Someone still needs to build, you know, an OpenSea on Tusk. That's not built yet. And we are looking at how we can build that and what we would do differently. And so if you look at, you know, whether it's Wax, which I like, by the way, better, then you got OpenSea, which is like the big eBay of the world on NFTs. None of them have really made so far the tools to make it really easy to do generative sets.
Right.
Or mint on demand kind of stuff. So I wanted to learn that process. And by the way, we're still figuring it out. So, but we want to make that really easy. So I'm envisioning, you know, at some point figuring out a way to build a wizard-driven type of interface to create generative NFTs for non-developers. And so the idea is that most artists, I mean, to do this the way you have to do on Ethereum, not only do you have to understand Solidity, you have to understand like Python and the Pillow library and things like that to do the automatic image generation piece of that. So there's two pieces of this, right? There's you got to make all the little pieces of art with all the different layers, and then you got to go through and, you know, and make the base art, and then you got to basically do the scripting and the programming based on weights and ratios of how the rarity of those different attributes. And then that's like the art part of this, and that's, you need a developer to be able to develop the scripting to make all those pieces of art, so you have that 10,000, you know, pieces of art drop. Then you got to upload those to like IPFS through Pinata or something like that. And then you still have to do the Solidity contract programming piece that kind of sucks those files down and connects them to the token when they're minted. And so there's two big pieces technologically that most artists just can't do that. And so I'm hoping that whatever the NFT marketplace that gets built on Tusk will have that built into its front end, so that an artist doesn't have to work, you know, a lot of artists are like developers, you know how they are. They're both a little moody, right?
Yeah,
Developers and artists both can be introverted, arty, you know, moody people.
Well, development is pretty much an art, so I can see how, you know, they are artists.
So I've talked, it's interesting because since we started doing this and just in Clubhouse, I've talked to a lot of artists, and they're like, they can't seem to understand that they have to partner with somebody. That seems to be a big bottleneck. They're like, how do you do all that? And I'm like, now that I understand what the process entails, because, you know, we're spending money on it and doing it, you know, I think a lot of that could be built into, you know, a front end. I think there could be a wizard-driven, you know, interface, you know, user interface that could distill all that, so the average artist could mint this way, and then we can build the software with a wizard-driven tool to make it easier, because artists are not going to learn all this. And I can tell you a lot of developers just don't like art. So let's start there too, right? So you got a lot of artists that just don't even want to mess with the image editing stuff. So that's a slightly unique art, a slightly different type of developer sometimes. So I think with whatever we build in Tusk, and I will tell you that I got a lot of amazing ideas where I can see Tusk next year. There's a lot of just going through this process and this learning and this education. I know, yes, Ken, you've been telling me about NFTs for 2 years, blah, 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 blah. I'm a little late, but when I jump in fast, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm learning now.
Yeah, I can think of
a lot.
billion use cases for NFTs on Tusk, especially when it comes to being able to, like, maybe, I don't know, pre-order ammunition in bulk and without having to actually like sell it as a business. Like if I had a store, like a lock-in gun store, somebody could come in and buy, I don't know, like 1 million rounds that day, even though I don't have that on hand. So that gives my business money without having to give out any goods and services.
So I'm learning a lot of stuff, and I'll just tell you that I connect with a lot of people. This is my latest homework that I'm researching right now. So there's a lot of use for NFTs in the future, and I can think of not just, you know, the gun thing, and I think ultimately the art thing. I'm thinking outside our original narrow focus of Tusk too, right? It's not just gun stuff. So one of the other things that I'm doing as a side hustle, because I don't have enough, you know, things to do, but I'm making an indie movie right now. We're almost done, and we've been working on it for almost a solid year. And I had this idea, it's like, you know, crowdfunding development of indie movies. And what happens if you got everybody who is involved with the movie mints an NFT, and they all get an automatic royalty. And then when the movie's released, they automatically get to see the movie and get a piece of ownership, but they get permanent ongoing royalties automatically. You don't have to. And if you understand how movies work, they're so archaic, right?
Mhm.
It's like you sell off your rights, and if you want to get royalties, it's just like someone's still literally writing a hand check or something for
Right.
those. And so I think there's an interesting play with crowdfunding movies through the use of NFTs. And so I'm looking at a lot of different angles, not just the gun, but even on the gun space though. So like, okay, what if you, I don't like I don't like the idea of guns registered as NFTs. I think that's a bad idea, but that's a different discussion. But I would say, like, if you're going to have to fill out the background forms to buy a gun, there's a form 4473 that's out there. And they're very complicated forms. They're stupid. The way the wording is, it's like a tax form. And so, what if you had an NFT combined with your self-sovereign ID, that when you walk into a gun store, when you go to get the background check, it just scans your QR code, and then it automatically populates the document. They verify your identity with the normal method, but now you've just reduced errors on that form.
Even
I mean,
better, you wouldn't even have to display that information to anybody at the store, because it would just say yes or no that you've been approved or not. Because like when you fill out that form, you are giving up valuable information to a complete stranger.
Yeah, the problem is that that's part of the law. Like, you'd have to sort that out. But right now, so I talk to a lot of gun dealers, right? And I know some consultants that all they do is consult on this stuff. And the paperwork errors can get you in a lot of trouble when there's 55,000 gun stores, FFL dealers in the country. And so understand that paperwork errors are a big problem in the industry, and this could solve that. There's just one little.
It's not a bug, it's a feature, because that's extra income when you fuck up that paperwork. They love when you fuck up that paperwork.
Well, the government does.
Yeah, exactly.
They come in, the government goes and hammers on those dealers. And so, because they do, so what happens is the ATF will go to these dealers and they do random audits, and they inspect the paperwork for errors, and then they can ding you or shut you down if you have too many. And so, but that's it. But you could clone the concept across so many different industries, right? How about I don't like medical records on, blockchains either, but there could be a way to do limited information that way. But I would say, how about credentialing, right? Like, my wife's a medical doctor, lawyers, doctors, people, like, what about bar associations? If you have these credentials, and you're like, especially with doctors and medical people, because you're licensed by the state you're in. So there's a lot of doctors and nurses that travel, but you got to get a license in those states to work in them. So what if you had a document? And here's the problem. Most of the time, those records are literally faxed. I'm telling you, that's how it's done right now. So what if you could have your credentials on your NFT that's only releasable by you in some kind of multi-sig wallet? I mean, somebody could build that as a business. I think a lot of these things are businesses that could be built on public blockchains.
I don't feel like enough people consider that non-transferable NFTs exist, right? You could have it. Your driver's license is yours. I can't just give it to you and you use it. That's non-transferable. And I feel like NFTs have that inherently built in, to where if I have like a membership NFT to like Planet Fitness, I can't just give you my membership to Planet Fitness because I don't want to go to the gym anymore. That NFT is just non-transferable. It's in my wallet. It's mine forever.
So we built into the TUS protocol time lock functionality on tokens that you want to create. And we did that, one, because of, what a Reg D is, right, when it comes to securities offerings. So one of the features of a Reg D security offering is that you have to not allow transferability of that security for 12 months. Yeah. That's one of the requirements by the SEC. We already built that functionality. Now you could set that duration to permanent.
I like that.
Wow.
I like that.
So we already built that functionality. Trust me, we're thinking, I don't know where this is going to go, honestly. We are doing a little bit of a pivot, and the more I learn, again,
I really like the time lock. That's going to be a lot of fun. That's cool. My brain's already having like utility for that. That's so much fun.
And so we also have partially shielded transaction capability. We haven't built that into any.
What does that mean exactly?
Partially privacy coin aspects. But they're optional. We haven't built an interface for it yet because we're still trying to sort out the legal ramifications of it.
It's private. It's wallet to wallet, I would assume private. Obviously, the asset couldn't be.
No, the asset to who it goes to and from, and the amounts can be shielded.
Okay.
So there's a lot of that. So there's a lot of functionality we put on the protocol that we don't have a way to access it yet, because we're just like, let's build the secret. Let's throw in the kitchen sink and then, build these features. But here's the thing why that might be interesting, like someone who builds a marketplace can take advantage of those. And maybe there's a good use case for that. And so that's what I don't know. So we wanted to build a lot of tools into the protocol. Again, Tusk is a public blockchain, delegated proof of stake, on-chain governance, all voted on, all decision makings are voted on. So we got a lot of big plans now we're expanding our initial focus, I would say, because I think there's a lot of solutions to problems that we can, build on. But the NFT thing, is amazing when you really start understanding all the different aspects. And like I said, I spent a lot of time learning, and I'm like, okay, now I get it. Now I know where you were like 2 years ago, Ken. So I'm giving you kudos. Like, I see the vision now because I got educated. But honestly, I've been busy too. So sometimes I'm just like focused on one thing. But now that I'm like, holy crap, this is these applications now. Because I think in terms of what problem can we solve with this technology? A lot of people, and you've seen this out there with a lot of crypto, right? Engineers just throw shit up and they're just like features for feature's sake. Someone will do something with it, but they don't have a plan in mind. They don't have an application in mind. They don't have a way to get it into market. They're just like, I'm just going to build it and they will come. I think differently. I think, okay, this is what a tool can do, but how can we use this in the market right now to solve a problem? And at least with the art part, I see we can do some permanent funding, sustainable funding for charities right now. Mm-hmm. Now, I think there's a limited window where everybody's crowding into this, big NFT generative drop. I think there's a limited window we'll be able to keep doing them. But, if we can, create some interesting funding for some charities right now that lasts forever, I'm excited about that. And then we can if we build a community around this under the Crappy Art umbrella. I mean, one of the things we're talking is maybe 2023 having a Crappy Art conference, and bringing all the different crappy. I would like personally, if we can do it and if we can sell out, we would like to do probably 4 drops next year, 2 drops this year. Okay. We already got themes. Like we've already been brainstorming, like what's the next theme? And one of the things that I haven't seen in NFT world is really political stuff. So
there is. That's why I thought that was really clever.
Yeah,
like, that's pretty damn clever.
So the next one's going to be, we got a good idea for the next one that's a little bit political too, a little more political, but it'd be badass. And I've talked to a couple people and they're like, oh, that's awesome. So we already know what the next drop theme is going to be. Okay. And then if we'd like to do 4 drops next year. So if in this process over the next, year and a half, and we can successfully build a good community around this process, this project that we're doing, then I want to have a conference. I want to get everybody together. Let's talk about this shit. And let's talk about, and I think in a year and a half, we're going to be in a very different place with art. And I will also say I will say that it's looking like Tusk will have an NFT marketplace on it early next year at the latest. Okay. And so I'd like to bring some of that over from Ethereum and Wax and bring it over to Tusk. But I want to build tools into that interface that allow for some things that are just not out there. Like I said, I'd like to build an interface for generative NFTs, and no one has that yet. Maybe they're working on it, but no one has it right now. And I'd like to build that. And then I want to make it so rate building, when you're minting, you can obviously, I know there are some NFT marketplaces that allow for collaborative royalties and things like that, but that's going to be a big piece. But in the interfaces, say, look, maybe it's as simple as you upload the logo from the charity you're partnering with. So in the interface, you can say, hey, these are the collaborators. And by the way, we're going to say this one collaborator is our charity partner in this process. But here's the thing, you can even do, it doesn't have to be a charity. What if you live in the middle of, all right, so I lived in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming for a while. True story. And I was a volunteer firefighter and a volunteer EMT. And we were always struggling to get good ambulance equipment and stuff. What if you could launch small town NFT and make a picture of an artistic view, picture NFT of an ambulance for this EMS department. Yeah. And you can say 50% of this or 80% of this or whatever of this NFT, not only is it a kind of a cool thing, but it's going to give this volunteer fire department, volunteer EMS in this small town permanent ongoing funding for equipment. And most people don't know that, the majority of firefighters in the entire country are volunteer. People don't know that. Most small rural towns are run by volunteer fire and EMS, almost all of them, and most of them don't get paid. And a lot of times, because they're not big fancy union fire departments, they don't even have really good equipment. I know some of our bunker gear and stuff was all just hand-me-downs from other big agencies that were replacing it. And so I think there's a lot of interesting funding for not only charities, but, really good stuff that solve problems at a local level. And because it's art, it's not, it's a little different rules for the SEC because they're not securities and things like that, or most of them aren't securities. And so this is where it's like, I'm thinking, wow, there's so much win-win-win here. Like, you can make money doing it. The artist can get a cut. And then, the people launching it get a cut, and then there's some kind of recipient partner that gets a cut. But it's not only just a one-off thing. It's like this permanent thing. And to me, that's really amazing to me. I don't know. I'm just super geeked about all this.
Yeah, me and Nathan talk about putting history on the blockchain all the time, so that the undead presidents, or whatever may be coming next with the political NFT stuff. It's more or less so putting history on the blockchain as a collectible. I think doing a conference would be a great idea in general, but also you mentioned that you didn't know how long you could be doing these generative things, and I think it could go on for as long as you can provide utility, forever. So with a conference, if I have one of these NFTs, maybe it's a general admission ticket to that conference. And now in order to get in, I have to buy one off the secondary market as a ticket. That way you manifest utility, which is manifesting value for those who provided the value before there was that alchemy that you had, right? So I think with that ambulance, even trying to raise money locally for a local EMT, businesses get involved, because a lot of those volunteers are small business owners. That's why they can afford to volunteer and afford to do things where they don't have to get paid. Like a lot of volunteer firemen, at least in New Jersey, in my area, they're like small business owners, like the pizza shop, the barber shop. Those guys that own those businesses, they're the ones who are like volunteering at the fire department.
Right, and that's how it was when we lived in Weinberg.
Their businesses could use that NFT as a utility. Right. So now that you donated to get a new ambulance, you get 10% off at the barber shop. You get 10% off at the pizza shop.
Exactly.
Just provide value to your community. Your community will give you that value back.
And that's the one thing, and that's the one thing missing from charitable donations. Right. So, what most people do charity because
you get a tote bag. You do get a tote bag.
Get a tote bag. But most why this, and this is not, and maybe people argue with me, but this is my truth. Most people donate to charity for literally selfish reasons. The two reasons are, one, it makes them feel good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a selfish reason. I'm doing it because I feel good about this shit, and then the other part is they might get a tax write-off. Those are the two reasons that most people give to charity. But what if you create incentives now, like you're saying there, Ken? Not only can you do good shit, but by the way, you get this permanent 5 or 10% off or whatever, or maybe it's just a temporary thing for 1 year. Whatever the rules. The thing is, you can program the rules. Like you can say this is going to be this if you buy this NFT. Because we bought an upgraded ambulance, you get a discount at all the stores that are on the NFT program for this 12-month period. And then maybe next year they launch an NFT to replace all the bunker gear or buy the new cop car in town or whatever. And then you get 12 months of benefits in town from the different businesses that support it. So you're going to get more participation that way. And ultimately, because you're aligning, and this is the key with everything, aligning everybody's self-interest with incentives to do the right thing.
I'm going to go to H&R Block with my NFTs and have them deduct my charitable NFTs from my taxes. This is where this is headed. People will be able to prove that they're giving back to their community with money that they have earned. So we could do our specific taxations where maybe we don't have to just give a generic donation to taxes. We can do with our money what we want done with it, and prove that we have done it by holding the NFTs that are issued for that.
You would think that the IRS would embrace that. right? Because it is provable.
It could be like lottery, right? Voluntary taxation, gamify fixing potholes.
And you probably get a whole lot more participation in it.
How much money is left over after fixing a pothole? Give 10% of that back to one person who put all them, you know what I mean? Like bought a pothole ticket.
Yeah, it's like, here's the thing, right? Like, okay, maybe, okay, let's just say government was open-minded to new technology and solving problems. Let's just assume we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They want to solve problems.
Did they just get on hard drives for like their files like last year or 2 years ago?
Dude, I think they were still doing punch cards.
Yeah, exactly. So let's assume.
But let's assume they want to do the right thing. Imagine if you could incentivize people like, look, I'm happy to spend money on government to do the things. Okay, I drive a lot of miles, so I'm gonna go through and buy the gasoline NFT this year. I'm gonna go buy the pothole NFT and the bridge not falling down NFT because I use the roads a lot. And let's just say my kids weren't homeschooled, but I was in public school. I'm gonna buy 4 of the kids are getting government daycare, college NFT, whatever it is. And then, okay, because those are the services I used this year. And then maybe I'll say, well, okay, I get an extra discount if I go to this, local event venue, if I buy the Help the Needy Kids NFT on top of that. So like literally there'll be like a basket of NFTs you can buy from the government.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, so like New Year's Day or whatever, you're like, well, I got to buy my NFTs this year to pay my taxes. Boom, 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 boom. You just literally have like a basket and you check out the services you want to use, and like, well, I want to buy the express lane token this year because I'm sick of having to wait in traffic when I commute, and boom, I'm going to buy that one, and then that gives you access to those services for the next 12 months or whatever. That's how you fund government. And you're like, well, I don't want to be invaded by the Chinese or the North Koreans, so I'm going to buy the mid-grade national policy defense NFT this year. I'll buy that one, and can
that
you
would be like a
imagine
Bill Gates NFT, I'd imagine.
Right, but can you imagine like that's how you're running government? Because you'll quickly know what people respect and what people don't
absolutely.
want.
The money you would be voting with each purchase you made it would be on the spot, like concurrent government, like real time. And
understand with Tusk, everything's voted on. So in my brain, I already think in terms of direct democracy because that's how our blockchains operate. All decision making is done by voting with your Tusk. So, but you would quickly realize that, here's the thing. Then everybody by a certain date has to buy their tokens for government service tokens for the year, their government service NFTs for the year. But then what you end up doing is then the politicians' budgets are based on those sales. Well, we only got 10 million to spend. We got 10 million to spend on fixing the roads, and we got 100 grand
not
to
even
spend.
The sales, secondary market, because now they have to provide utility for secondary market to give value to the people who gave them the value to begin with. Their only money they make is from the secondary market. That way, they are incentivized to make people money who gave them money to begin with. That is cyclical shit. That's sustainable shit.
Even if you gave them just a big rev share, right? I mean, there's so many ways that you could like package that. We're just brainstorming shit here, right? I think we actually thought about it for 80 hours. We'll probably have a dialed-in plan. Sure. But can you imagine if people were like saying, "Do you want to?" We
should have taken that meeting with the mayor of Miami, Nathan.
I know. What the hell?
We fucked up.
We big leagued him.
We were like, we're too busy getting high, and he don't smoke. Sorry. If he would have smoked, we would have been there.
It was like, it's just the mayor. It's not like it's like the governor of Florida or anything. That was like our kind of take. It was crazy.
Not big enough.
Not
big enough. But like, who the hell are we?
Right.
So funny.
He's like, hey, I want to meet with you, but I don't want any pictures out there with you.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was pretty much like that.
But
don't bring your dumb ideas in here, basically.
Don't bring your crazy talk in here, you wacko stoner. Hold on, that would totally revolutionize and make government efficient. And here's the thing, that would make who you vote for office almost irrelevant.
I know. That's what they're afraid of, I think. And a lot of large businesses I've consulted with don't want this either because it's transparent.
Right. It's like, that's why
it removes their need.
That's why government wants to launch their own tokens instead of like adopting other people's shit, because they want to still be able to inflate that shit and spend it, because that's where their power. Understand where their power comes from. Once you understand where their power comes from, if you take away all their money, they don't have any power because they can't give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Government, the politicians make power by giving money away.
It's a
And
pool.
so-
They are the pool. They're a pool. They pull our money together to fucking lobby on things. Like, we can do all these without them. A smart contract can replace 9 out of 10 people in the government. Like, whatever your job is, there could be a line of code written to fucking replace your ass.
Well, what if you had like, okay, turn it around, like back to government services that, what if you had a blockchain-based voting system with a recommendation and reputation engine for like firefighters, cops, and post office and all that other shit, and then their budget gets, as their ratings go down, they get less pay or they get docked or lose their bonus. So, I mean, think about this, right? Like, that's how, like, I got pulled over and the cop was respectful. Okay, I'm not going to downvote him. I screwed up. But if he was a dick and lectured me and made me feel like I was 3 years old just because I was speeding down the road, I'm going to fucking thumbs down that guy. Well, guess what? If that cop gets too many thumbs down, he either gets on probation, gets fired, doesn't get any bonus, doesn't get a pension. So you're now going to change the way incentives work. The problem is, and most often with politicians and bureaucrats and academics and all that, there's no accountability for performance, regardless. Like, if they waste money, it fails. The government program fails. They don't suffer consequences from that. But if you tie smart contracts and NFTs and these kind of things to your behavior, obviously you all know this. Someone's always going to be unhappy. So if one downvote doesn't mean they lose their job. But if like more than half the interactions are rated at a certain level, this guy's just maybe unprofessional and a prick, right. and he loses out. And I mean, that's where the technology could go in a good way. And to me, that we can code in laws and expectations with NFTs and crypto and smart contracts that can make humanity better.
Proof of good.
For good.
Well, laws ain't shit. We won't like. Where we're going, we don't need laws. Protocols are what we want laws to be. I can choose to break the law. What the fuck what power does that even have? But if it's in the code as protocol, I have no choice now but to follow those rules. I could fork it, but that is like living in another dimension. I could live in the fourth dimension and do these things, but it has no effect on the other dimensions. So I feel like, being able to have that level of engagement with things is going to be where, I say go for yourself. I think that's where it's going to get really fun. I wanted to mention, because you mentioned a movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Crane's in the chat. Wanted to shout him out. He's working on NFT, the movie.
I was hanging out with him on Friday.
Oh, shit. I was just going to say, you two should chat, and you guys were hanging out. I love that small world vibe shit right there, man.
Jeff, I'm responding to you after the show.
Made my heart warm.
So we actually were talking about this a little bit. And so there was a little crypto conference in Utah on Friday. That's where I live. I live in Utah. And, like Miss Teen Crypto was here, and Litecoin Lisa and some others were here. So, and Jeff's local to me. So I already know Jeff because we've had him speak we do a little conference generally every year. And so Jeff spoke at it before. So, and then it's really funny because we sold our house in December, we thought it was the top of the market, but it's still going crazy, but we wanted to just cash out. And so we're renting a house in a nice area south of there. And my next door neighbor, who is this other big crypto guy, I didn't even know, moved into the guy, and we both showed up to this guy. We're like, I know you. So it's a really small world out here. But there's a lot of cool stuff going on in Utah crypto wise too, though. So
was it Dan Larimer?
No, actually, I like Dan's stuff. But Tron Black and Ravencoin are here, and a bunch of other stuff.
I met Dan at Consensus, and he was all alone at a booth, and nobody was talking to him, and he looked like a lonely intern. It was so weird.
I would talk to him, dude.
I didn't even know who he was till the next day, because then I saw the picture on Twitter, and I'm like, wait, that was Dan? I thought that was an intern.
He's like a next level coder and everything. He's like a real nuts and bolts guy that's also like able to run it at a high level. It's insane.
Dude,
It's
he's
such a
like
humble dude.
So understand, he wrote BitShares, he wrote Steam and EOS. So understand who he is, and he just cashed out. He's done. He's retired.
Respect.
I would bet he's probably I would say he's probably on the billionaire level, like just from where he's
I would hope so. I would hope so, just for the sake of what he's contributed to the ecosystem. Like BitShares was one of the first tools I really used that taught me like what smart contracts and things could really do. Like I didn't understand like what things could be done autonomously without human oversight until I had a hands-on experience with BitShares, and that's where like the nuts and bolts of the brain just started running with like, oh, this is the type of shit we can do with this.
We're a fork of BitShares, so part of our hard fork we rebased to BitShares 5.0. And dude, there is so much in that because, and the cool thing, you know, what's funny is that we're connected. So 2 of the top BitShares developers have been consulting with us, and we have 3 Monero core devs working on Tusk now. We got a really interesting team working on a lot of fun stuff. And BitShares never stopped developing. Like they have they've been coding crazy stuff and no one uses it. And it's like one of the most amazing blockchain because, Dan Larimer left a long time ago, but they've just kept developing. And so it's funny because one of their lead devs actually literally has Tusk ads running on the BitShares website because they support what we're doing. And so that's why it's pretty fun. The BitShares guys are great. BitShares is an amazing blockchain. It's got so much functionality in it now. Like I'm telling you, like there's so much in the kitchen sink, and even in their the main bitshares.org website and in their version of it their interface, their wallet doesn't have half the functionality of their protocol in it.
Oh, talk about not having half of NFTs. Don't even have half of that yet. We don't even have an NFT equivalent of what BitShares offered for currencies.
So I will say, because we've been talking. So the guy who created the NFT specification for BitShares we're already talking and engaging with him very actively about what we're going to be building into the first NFT marketplace on Tusk. So it's going to be cool. And like I said, go look at what the latest. If you just look into the documentation of BitShares, all the stuff they put in under the kitchen sink, they've never even built an interface to access it other than like command line. It's like really freaking amazing stuff. And I'm just like, I just start going through the list of shit it does. And I put my little entrepreneur hat on. I'm like, well, we could do this and this and this. And it's like, it's perfect fit for self-sovereign identity. And so I was talking to some activists in the self-sovereign identity world. And I think we're going to try to do some experimentation along Tusk and self-sovereign ID. But people are like, how do we get it to work? And I'm like, well, this is pretty straightforward. So one of the problems with like self-sovereign ID is how do you get government to accept it? Because the only people that really the main people that give a shit about identity is the government, right? And if government doesn't acknowledge it, it doesn't matter so much, other than like maybe the library, but that's government too. But one of the things I said, well, all you need to do is do what like TSA pre does. I don't know if you're TSA pre.
I am now. I'm a grown-up, bro.
Right, and I've been TSA pre and clear and all those things for years now. But when you go get TSA pre, all you're doing is literally going in person to like this private contracted like notary kind of person, and they literally have to show them your ID and they verify your documents, and then boom, stamp. You're now TSA pre. Well, if you want to implement self-sovereign ID, you just need to engage with those people.
Yes.
So, and I think you have a better chance than now giving governments to start adopting. You probably have to start with governments outside the US. But if you said, look, we're using the same damn people the federal government's using to validate these self-sovereign identity tokens, that's a game changer. That's how you start moving.
But do we want to live in a society that has a digital identification? Like, there are reasons why you can't use your smartphone at the bar to prove you're 21 to get a beer. Right. Do we want to, and also, other reasons beyond that we don't really necessarily want to be in a digital identified, like we're talking about digitizing the dollar. That's scary as fuck. I'm a Bitcoiner, but I do not want that. That is a dystopian fucking society I don't want to be a part of. And I think digitizing identity could be just as dystopian.
I think that's one of those things that it could be. Here's the problem. It's just like a gun. It's just like, it can be used for good or evil. Any technology can be used for good or evil, just like a weapon, right? And so you and I can think of, okay, where would self-sovereign identity be helpful? Well, online commerce right now in this trustless environment, that would be helpful because there's so many scams and bullshit out there, which I do think hinders the growth of things like crypto because of that. I mean, this is probably everybody that gets trustless. Yeah, but everybody's a fucking scammer. So, it's like that's a problem for growth of these technologies. So I think where you would start is you start looking at where people are validated in online world for online commerce, maybe not from the government perspective in the beginning. Now, I do believe their governments are going to use this thing bad. I have reservations about what the hell they're doing in El Salvador with Bitcoin too, for the same reasons.
Brazil just announced. I saw in the chat somebody just said Brazil announced that they're doing the same thing now.
They ain't picking Monero, are they?
No, they aren't.
They ain't picking Monero. And here's the reason. And this is the thing. Like a lot of maxis hate me, and I don't give a fuck anymore what maxis think. But here's the thing: the fact is, Bitcoin is not a privacy coin. And the fact is, the biggest gripe of South and Central American politicians is the fact that those societies have huge cashless, informal markets, and they want to tax the shit out of them. And if you make them go from paper cash kind of culture and push them into a completely trackable, Bitcoin government wallet kind of system, you are creating financial surveillance state around that. And they're trying to tax people more. And so, I mean, that's a real risk. And I think this is the pro or con. I think Bitcoin can be weaponized, or any crypto really that isn't privacy coin can be weaponized, because what's happening is they're incentivizing broke people by giving literally like a free month's worth of, I think in El Salvador, like $30 is like, that's like a month's salary for a lot of people down there. And so you're now incentivizing really, really broke people with money they can't resist, because that's a lot of money to really poor people to get on the system. They're doxxed to get on the system, and now it's all traceable. And so ultimately, I have concerns about that type of implementation of any crypto. It's not just Bitcoin. I'm not anti-Bitcoin. I'm anti what the hell corrupt Latin American politicians are doing with it.
Well, yeah, governments could corrupt Bitcoin even as well. Whitelisting addresses and things like, whitelisting Bitcoin. Imagine being a small business and getting caught using, a cold storage wallet to accept payment instead of like the point of sale system. So it would be the same problem as getting caught accepting cash under the table. So most businesses will go through, that point of sale system that requires KYC, which basically is going to say you need a whitelisted to whitelisted wallet. You're going to have this Bitcoin wallet have an ID attached to it to send Bitcoin to this business Bitcoin address. So these two whitelisted, which are KYC'd addresses, can talk now. They can do that to Bitcoin, and they can make people conform to it with repercussions. Bitcoin isn't impervious to these things.
And then they can force it on the Lightning channels.
Of course. And then incentivize it with the rewards as well. They could literally pay people to do the things they want to do.
All you need to say is, if you want, all right, look at it this way. Anybody given, if you look at Social Security and you look at whatever else, it's all direct deposit now. You have to go, and I think they totally phased out, real checks, but most of it, you had to literally give the government your bank account information to receive government refunds and government benefits. So they already do that. And all they have to say is no, if you want your tax return, give us your Bitcoin address. We'll send it to you in our sanctioned Bitcoin or US, whatever USD coin or whatever it is. So ultimately, then they can trace where it goes. And then, then they'll say, oh, you're not allowed to use use a mixer or something. These coins went through a mixer, so now they're blacklisted, right? I mean, that's what they're going to do. Yeah. That's why it's I've always said, look, well, we're getting in the weeds on this one. But I've always said...
We like weed. It's cool.
It doesn't matter.
Sorry.
Jesus Christ. Points.
So the big thing is, that's why I think adoption as a store of value actually is not a threat to the system. Whereas I think adoption of for payments is a big threat to the system. DeFi is a big threat to the system. If you get people using a non-controlled government crypto for payments and you get mass adoption, that is a huge threat to the system. Bitcoin's become a 401k. a store of value. And that narrative is not a threat to the system. They just incorporated it and now it's just a store of value. But they fear a payment system, and no one's really done this yet, right? Is where they're really getting mass adoption of any crypto. It doesn't matter if it's Tusk or someone else. Once you get mass adoption outside their system, that is a threat to their system. And you can, but I think that's my concern. And I've always said, look, we need to get someone using crypto for payments and focus on getting people. I don't care if it's my blockchain or someone else's blockchain. I don't care if it's Monero. Somebody needs to be doing the work to onboarding people to get people to mass adopt crypto as payments outside of the government purview and control. And no one's doing that. And if the government gets theirs out there and gets it into market before some crypto gets adopted, I think we're going to lose the game.
I got the torch going, so I'll try to keep this muted again. But did you see Visa is now going to be utilizing stable coins, and what impact do you think stable coins could have to the Petra?
It could be interesting. I think it could be very interesting because I'm trying to be optimistic now. Let's go back to charity and sustainability.
How about I put it and go, what do you love most?
What do I love most?
In the world. Or it could be a who. That way we get off the politics. Holy shit.
I love
politics? All right. That's a great answer. That should be everybody's answer, honestly. Especially if we're concerned about the things that we're concerned about.
We have 4 kids, right? And some of them are still young. Like, I have to think about what the world looks like in 5 or 10 years, right? And where we're going to be. And listen to the current politics, right? The U.S. dollar is dead. It's already fucking dead. Like 20% inflation, and depending on what you're looking at, it's going to be a lot more. The fact that they're arguing over whether or not to, extend the debt ceiling even more. We're $30 trillion in debt. There's not that much current U.S. dollar in circulation. They can never pay that off. And so it's already fucking dead. And now, if you listen to our power, you're going to destroy the economy if you don't let us borrow more money. I'm like, are you guys just fucking, what kind of crack do you guys smoke?
Government issued crack.
Government issue crack's not even very good, right? It's that shit cut with Ajax and stuff, right? Cornstarch going into that shit and a little bit of turpentine. But, ultimately,
it's like the government cheese where you can't melt it with a lighter.
Dude, government cheese is really high quality cheese. And in fact, if we went back to giving people 5-pound blocks of those rectangular cheese, because I know I had family members on that shit, if we went back to that and stopped letting people buy all the garbage food that they can buy with EBT, we'd probably not be so obese and probably not be so affected by COVID as a nation. But let's not talk about that.
Andreas Antonopoulos taught me about mountains full of cheese. Did anybody else? Andreas Antonopoulos had a great story about government cheese, and I don't know what happened with it. Now it's in mountain warehouses and shit, dude. That's a great story. I can't remember exactly, dude. That's so interesting. Just to think that there's there's a giant vault out there full of cheese.
Yeah.
And it was really high quality cheese too. It came in this giant block that, it was this hard cheddar stuff. And my grandma was on that when I was a kid. So she'd always, they didn't like eating 5 pounds of cheese every month. So they gave it to us.
I wonder, is that what Kraft is? Is government cheese just Kraft cheese and they're just selling it back to us?
No, because the more
Kraft cheese is garbage. It's not real cheese.
More modern era government
Kraft's
cheese.
Not real chease.
You could hold a lighter up to it.
For the most part.
And it just gets stiff. It doesn't melt. It's pretty crazy. So we might have had different eras of government cheese.
I feel like there has to be a scientific explanation for this that we just don't know, so we just look like cavemen trying to figure it out. Cheese don't melt, fire don't melt cheese. That has to be some kind of a scientific explanation, because I know it doesn't melt a snowball the way people expect it to.
That's true.
And that's scientific. Yeah, that's scientific.
Dude, I literally had someone telling me the snow is like styrofoam. I can't melt it. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
But that's not how it works. Your lighter isn't melting snow. It's cooling it down very slowly. Or warming it up very slowly.
Because it's called, the process is sublimation. And most people don't know basic science in sublimation. And so
I didn't know the word, but I knew that thing.
Yeah, it's called sublimation. So it's like, so look it up, right? The people that are out there like trying to like melt snowballs and like saying, oh, it's chemtrails, and on YouTube, those guys are funny. I'm like, it's like, it's like 90% of those kind of conspiracy theories would be solved with like literally 9th grade science class, but people don't understand 9th grade science, so they're like,
it's very challenging. You must admit. No,
dude. But here's the thing: I'm a fun guy. Like we homeschool our kids, so that we'll replicate like these like conspiracy theory videos and explain why they're nonsense and show my kids like, see, this is crazy. This is why. It's like, but I think we can solve the problems of the world, and I think right now we're probably going to look back. People are going to see this as a very pivotal time in the West and in history on how these technologies are brought into circulation and how they're used to either enslave or liberate. Technology can liberate or it can slave. And I'm a little concerned by the way things are going, that I think the government's going to be more likely using it to enslave. And I am concerned about that going forward. And ultimately, I wish we would, I'm going to be one of those nerds, like, I'm here for the tech, right? But the fact is, so many people that were here for the tech are not going out and marketing their projects. You got people that have like billion-dollar market cap projects, and their founders are taking pictures with them holding roosters and not going to industry and hiring,
Shots
VP
fired.
Market.
I know exactly what you're talking about now. Shots fired.
I think I do too.
It took a whole second for it to click.
But I like him. Like, I don't hate him. I'm just like, dude, like, go to a conference outside a crypto conference and go market your blockchain to an industry and get them using it. Go knock on a door to
bring the rooster with.
Bring the rooster with you. Have a cockfight. I don't care. But the fact is, it's like, if you got $1 billion market cap project, you can hire the biggest sales team nationwide and a VP of marketing and go knock on doors and hire, and hire call centers. You can do it. You can do it. You have the resources. But that's the shit I would do if we were $1 billion market cap project. We'd be doing that, because I'm an entrepreneur. I think like that. Because if you want mass adoption, you got to do mass marketing.
Why isn't Satoshi out there marketing Bitcoin then?
Because Hal's dead.
Damn.
That's
rest in peace, by the way, Halfany.
Yeah.
But the fact is, he's probably dead. And unfortunately, but going back, I'm old, right? But it's like, how did the internet get mass adopted? Okay, it was fucking AOL sending out 40 billion freaking CDs and magazines to get
like
people
free
on
NFTs.
board.
Use Wax, give advertisements to people, send mass amounts of stuff for free, and get people in your thing. Like,
but you're never going to get mass adoption for crypto unless you're doing mass marketing, right? I mean, AOL, the internet existed, but it wasn't mass adoption, and people started the first email.
And I'm not going to give it away.
I think it's just video games too. Like, mass adoption doesn't have to be all marketing if kids are just like, kids find things within their own communities too. It's like these weird little niche things that develop, and next thing you know, like, the whole world is playing, Call of Duty. It's like not just marketing, but like within that, there's like a culture of like actually liking the thing.
Well, it's like, even like, I think the future of tokenomics, everything probably will be tokenized, but go look at like Minds and Odyssey and some of these other social medias. That's the future, but we need to get people on those platforms to start availing of that, that technology and that tokenomics. If you want to get away from the surveillance state of, social media state of Silicon Valley, there's already alternatives, and they'll pay you, right?
Yeah, they will.
And just like Brave, right? Brave browser with BAT tokens. It's like, these are amazing platforms and ingenious ways to go and get adoption. And I think we need to like focus on more of that. In fact, that's some of the things we've been looking at with Tusk, right? Is not that we're going to out of the gate like get all these businesses accepting Tusk, right? But what if we start by saying Tusk is airline miles? You buy something with dollars with a credit card for this retailer, and then they give you 1% cash back in Tusk.
Their loyalty point,
right?
Their rewards point.
Loyalty points, but they're fungible loyalty. Now, there are rules about that, and there are some laws about that, and they're gray. Like, they're not clear cut right now.
So they literally ruin innovation. It's so annoying.
Well, I mean, ultimately, It's like, why is El Salvador, their politicians scrambling to get in on the, where are the other avenues of graft, right? Like, okay, because the president gets to choose which bank gets to process all those government buys of Bitcoin, right? Because they're buying it through their bank. So there's probably kickbacks going on through that. Um, but I mean, you look at the graft. It's hard for politicians to graft when you're doing these things, and that's why they're opposed to it. Like, Bitcoin. I think the problem is, if you look at El Salvador, I mean, they don't have their own currency to inflate, so they need something else, right, to get their little. They don't control the currency because they're on dollars, and I think Belize is on the U.S. dollar too.
Yeah.
So there's different countries already have adopted dollars, and yeah, it sucks to be on the whim, but let's be honest, the U.S. dollar, at least up till recently, was probably the most stable, valuable, useful fiat currency on the planet, right?
Shout out to the euro.
Yo, but but I think politicians love. That's why the problem is these third world politicians, like they're not as good at managing. They can't help themselves when they can start printing. Once they get taste of printing all that money and all the power they get out of it, they can't stop it. Like, it's like a crazy addiction, and you know how it is. The addiction's a crazy downward spiral eventually. People get into hard energy drugs and stuff like that. It's just a matter before they fucking burn out. But I think politicians are the same way when they get addicted to the power that comes from spending other people's money. And if you can inflate the money, which is that stealth tax, it's even better, right? You just start borrowing more and more and more, and they never realize, what, I can make this gravy train go on for a long time. Look how long the dollar's been going on.
It hasn't even been 100 years though.
100 years, but look how quickly though, in the last, let's just say from like the 70s, you're talking like the last 35, 40 years, how quickly it's going to go down. But look how quickly now in the last, let's just say since 9/11, right? Since 9/11, it's gone off the charts as far as government spending, right? And every president.
Well, our government did what you were suggesting businesses do with like loyalty points. They were rewarding other governments for accepting our currency with airdrops of more of our currency for as much as they accepted, right?
Correct. But unfortunately, there's, at least if someone's using Tusk that way, there's a finite amount of that they can do.
That's what
whereas the government doesn't have. The government doesn't. I mean, I look at it like this. Like, I mean, there's no cap on Tusk, and we did that deliberately. There's a controlled inflation rate.
Like the millennials say, like no cap.
No cap, dude. No cap. But we did that deliberately because we didn't want people to think that Tusk was only about. People don't spend Bitcoin because the economics, because of that deflationary cap. It's like, why would I go buy groceries if it can double in a month or something, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't change. And so we said, look, let's have a controlled inflation rate that's controlled by rules, but you got to pay for the making of a currency. Like, if you think about fiat currency, right? It's like there's a cost to the paper, there's a cost to making the printing plates, there's a cost to the ink, there's a cost to moving that shit around, there's a cost to swapping bad old bills for new bills. Those costs are borne right now through general taxation. So there's a cost, but we don't ever see that. But with crypto, it's like, how do you keep a sustainable currency going on, right? You still have to pay the miners, and you don't want to make the fees too expensive because then people won't use it because that's a barrier to entry. If the gas is $50 to do a transaction, no one's going to buy coffee with that either. So we're like, okay, we think if you make a crypto look like it's just going to be an investment, people are only going to think of it as an investment and they won't spend it. And deflationary caps, that's the incentive that creates. And then on the other hand, if people see that it's cheap to transact, but yet the network is sustainably funded through additional block rewards, through minor amount of inflation in a controlled way. You got to remember, the dollar worked for a long time with a little bit of controlled inflation. A little controlled inflation, if it's kept, let's think of inflation as a monetary policy, but in crypto, it's part of your contract, right? It's part of, the code, that the dollar worked for a long time. If they can keep a handle on it, it makes sense. But the problem is politicians, they can just vote to change that monetary policy and inflate whenever they want. And that's the inherent risk. And ultimately, because it's that power is addicting, they always do it. That's why that is the human nature reason why all fiats go to zero. But with crypto, okay, it's a controlled inflation rate. Boom, it's just coded. Like you can't just arbitrarily change that willy-nilly, and it's a very difficult process. And if it does get changed, it's going to probably be changed. Will also be changed downward as the value goes up. But the community has to vote to support that change, regardless. And so I think that's the difference between like an inflationary or slightly inflationary crypto versus an inflationary monetary policy fiat. And I think there's a difference there. And everybody who like say, well, in crypto world, they're like, oh, any inflation's bad. It's like, they're not the same thing, right? There's a difference between a government politician. One, they're incentivized to print more because they get more power. So with crypto, we don't have that anyway. That incentive doesn't exist on the top line.
We have miners, but it's fixed at
Yeah, but I think ultimately the miners aren't the only one in control, because in delegated proof of stake, everybody gets a vote. And so the miners don't control it in a delegated proof of stake where they do in proof of work blockchain. So, but governance is hard too, right? With crypto, trying to figure that out. and when you're trying to build something, and from day one, not only do you have to deal with the tech part, but you have to figure out the governance piece. And that's hard.
Yeah, dowing out the government is going to be an interesting experiment. It'll probably take 100 years to unravel, but it'll probably start within our lifetime, seeing like government organizations becoming DAOs, politicians becoming code smart contracts.
You know where it starts? Your local club and your local HOA. That's where it starts. You start doing it. An HOA is a DAO. Instead of all this smart city with the tyranny of things running it, right? And I'm not a fan of IoT.
What the hell's an HOA? I feel like
homeowners association.
Oh, yeah. So, I don't do that.
No,
but I have a real place too.
But what I'm saying is, though, you could run an HOA. So instead of having these little petty tyrants on the HOA board, and by the way, they have a lot of power too. Like they can tell you what fucking color you can paint your house and how long your grass is, and if you can park a car in your driveway. If it's got, a lot of HOAs, depending on where you go. I mean, if let's just say you're a welder or a plumber and you have a van and it's got your logo, like a lot of HOAs ban that shit. HOAs have a lot of power.
Don't laugh at me, Matthias. I see you in the chat. You didn't even have to type LOL. You put a lot of energy into just making me feel bad right there. Just saying.
Yep.
So I think where you start with DAOs for governance and the experiments, I think you start with HOAs.
Okay, that would be cool. I guess it would be interesting to see if people would want to be transparent, or if they would want to be more synonymous with with who's voting on what and why. It would be interesting to see, why I can't paint my house neon pink and who's saying so, and if there's a way I can make friends with those people. And I don't know, maybe they want their grass to be a little taller, and now maybe we can agree that my house can be a little pinker and your grass can be a little taller. And that, I think, is where we start to see more, what do they call it? Compromise. Like, you start to see more compromise made in your community rather than somebody both people having to sacrifice things. Just, you know what I mean? Like, you see a lot of sacrificing in community just for the sake of sacrificing it. Just,
right.
and you could compromise if only you could see like where those sacrifices are truly kind of coming from originally. And I think with transparency, with something like the homeowners association, you'd be able to at least start that conversation. And like you said, it would be an interesting, safe place to experiment. You could probably do it somewhere local in like Nevada or what is that? Wyoming. I think they're all real crypto friendly there.
Well, it's like interesting because like usually when developers are the ones that establish what the HOA rules are, there's no requirement to have an HOA. Like there's none. Like if you're a developer and you want to go build a housing development, you don't have to have an HOA in it. But a lot of people
because you don't own it.
Well, a lot of times, what happens is that the HOA typically is run by the developer until enough houses are built and enough people move in, and then they kind of take it over. But what ends up happening is that developers, they say that, well, a lot of people who are pro HOA are saying that it keeps the values higher in those developments. So you don't have, the problem is you don't have the people, running mechanics garages with cars on blocks in their front yard, right? Like that's what an HOA is supposed to be protecting from. But the problem is that there's like, there's always nuances and gray areas, right? Because
I see a little kid get arrested recently for a lemonade stand or something, and that was like the HOA to blame. Like they didn't want little kids having
That's
lemonade
crazy.
stands in the neighborhood.
But some people are bad neighbors. So like this is
Okay,
one of those
that's
things.
a good point.
So I'll tell you my bad neighbor story,
If
right?
we
That
keep
lemonade
going down
tasted
this,
horrible,
if we
is what I
keep going
heard.
down this road, this is where we start to find like Hunger Games level shit. But it's like self-chosen hunger. Like people were like people that flock together.
Hunger Strike games.
Oh shit, Hunger Strike games. That's like the
I-
best parody. You better DM the Wayans brothers right now.
So Hunger Strike Games is like so it's an NFT drop with a bunch of anorexic people with bad makeup.
It could be. That's the thing.
I just saw the fucking poster.
I did too. I saw it in my brain. It hurts, but it's also hilarious.
I'm not gonna name the influencers, but I already saw some that could kill it.
You watch like in 6 weeks is 10,000. It's like that's like maybe that's the crappy art. Umbrella to love drop.
Yes,
the three.
Let's do a Hunger Strikes Games generative project.
So we sold our house because we wanted to cash out, and it was a strategic cash out. They need to sell a house. My house doubled in like 4 years. I'm like, this is gonna crash. This is stupid. So we cashed out, paid off my wife's medical student loans, and put us in a really good place. And so we're renting. We said, let's rent for a year and see what the hell. And because I'm in Utah, the housing market's just stupid. And we're renting kind of in an upscale neighborhood. There's no HOA in this neighborhood though. And the really nice house across the street. And now these houses where we live, we're kind of on a bluff and there's a view of the valley. It's a fancy neighborhood, but there's not an HOA. It's an older neighborhood. And these houses are really close together. Like they're only like 10 feet apart. There's no yard. I left a half-acre lot to like a house that's got no yard. And the neighbors across the street, I was talking to the next door neighbor to him, and he's like, "You ever seen the neighbor problem?" And I'm like, "No." And he took me into his backyard to look at his neighbors. His neighbors, he's like, they got 30-foot nets. Understand, there's like 10 feet between the houses, but this guy, they built a commercial volleyball court in their backyard. Now I like volleyball. And they had to put like the nets up from like what do they call that golf place, right? Where you like have to they got the tall nets so the golf balls don't go into the street. They put those kind of nets along the side of their property, and the volleyball net's the width of the yard. And I'm like, that's cool.
It's
and
a safety net, so yeah, I get it. I see it.
And I'm like, and I didn't think anything about it. He's like, oh, wait till the summer. I go, what do you mean? He's like, you'll see. And dude, they got fucking volleyball tournaments going on like every Saturday with like 100 people coming and like a PA and like a DJ. And it's like, okay, the first time it's cool, like, oh, this is a hip neighborhood. And then it's like after like the 4th week of it, it's like literally they take up every spot on the street, and it's like a commercial event, like a bar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I'm talking like literally a DJ, and the houses are 10 feet apart. I mean, it's really ridiculous. So that's a bad neighbor, in my opinion, because they're not respectful of other people's property and things like that. And because, that sounds leaving their property, they're taking up all the, it's like, leaving or throwing garbage on the ground. I mean, it's just like, okay, every now and then that's fine. But they literally have like a DJ booth and like literally a PA system with the scoring going on. I mean, so that's why
you and all of your neighbors should organize like big parties when they have parties, but earlier, so all the parking's taken up by every other house.
So this is the passive aggressive. Like,
that's the shit I'd be doing. Like, well, we should all like just park our cars everywhere where they can.
So one of the neighbors does this. So the neighbor that I don't get into politics, I laugh about it because I'm just like, yeah, we're not.
Oh, Nathan's got to get go. I didn't realize how long we've been fucking chatting.
Oh, wow,
bro. Yeah, man, my bad. Thanks everybody for sticking with us. I literally just realized the time my alarm went off. I'm sorry, Rob.
Oh, well, no worries. I can yak. That's for sure.
No, for sure, man. You should come on again, though. Let's talk. Let's do this again. Sorry, I do have to wrap it up.
Sure.
Shit. Anything?
Oh, this is so good that we just kind of.
Yeah, I just fell into it.
Yeah.
Did you want to let people know anything before we wrapped it up? We know we got the website in the description of the video and in the title of the video.
Sure.
So we have the crappy.art up. Anything that you wanted to mention about the Undead Presidents?
Undead Presidents. It's a great. We're doing. It's an NFT, generative NFT project that pokes fun at the last few presidents in the United States. Is the 9,666 going to be dropped? We have some Easter egg non-presidents in that. So there's going to be some super rare ones that actually aren't presidents. I can tell you that there's some interesting cheeky humor in it. So for instance, if you get the right one, there'll be a Bill Clinton with the blue dress with a little white spot on it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, we're throwing rocks.
Wow. That's dope.
And so there's going to be some really cool, super rare ones that are going to be part of the drop. But the main thing is that 10% of this drop is going to go to WotC, which is a charity that does crowdfunding to help people get the surgeries that they need and the medical care they need. And they're like really, really well respected and real efficient with those donated funds. So check out WotC and check out crappy.art.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it, Nathan. I love you. You know that's the answer. Chat, appreciate all of you for tuning in. Cosmic Alien, D&B, Matthias, thank you very much. Jeff Crane, everybody. NFT the movie. Go ahead and check it out. Google it. Scruffy said he thought this was an Apex stream. That's hilarious. I love Apex though. Kurtz, thanks for tuning in, bro. I appreciate the support. And Sound Dr. Genie, I just seen this. Sorry, man. Thank you. Sent a $30.33 super chat. 333 said, great stream. Thank you for the excellent NFT tips. Yeah, man. No problem, bro. I was giving away a few NFTs during the live stream. So if you want to go back and rewatch, the QR code on the bottom right corner as it updates, if you scan the QR code, you can get a free NFT. Ryan, bro, thanks for the ride home the other day. We got the bro trip. Appreciate you, man. We got to go to the it was basically Pittsburgh meetup.
Oh, cool. It was like the Amish meetup.
Yeah, Lemonade put it together. It was there was a lot of Dutchy outfits. It was awesome. Randy, thanks for tuning in. Argo Blue, ACU5, love you. Al Bundy, shout out to the Dingleberries and everybody I may have missed. Thanks for tuning in. As always, have a day.
Have a day. We love you.
Thanks, guys.
We love you. All right.
Yes. Everybody, okay, call it. Yep. I know. Hey, I gotta talk to you about something. About something right now. Look at this. Tokens. So you're going to get your NFTs, right? You got to get your NFTs. Get your NFTs. Okay, now listen. So you got your token. You got your phone device here. Where's your NFTs? What is this? I gotta talk to you about this. It's called the Kin Token. You need to get the Kin Token, folks. Kin Token. NFTs, right? 3 hours each, folks. Kin Tokes. Well, howdy, folks. Me and my little buddy here don't want y'all to get caught up in the rat race. So you're gonna get your Kin Tokens early. You're gonna wait for that airdrop until the membership sells out. Now you could take that to the bank. You could take that to the decentralized blockchain technologies, buddy.
Alrighty there, okay.
It's the freaking Kin Token, folks. Get the Kin Token. It's the Kin Token, folks. Kin Token. Get the Kin Token, folks! You need to get the Kin Token! Get the Kin Token before it's too late! It's like he's, I get it, like Kin's Token. He's like, because he's like token. Kin's Token.